This week in Jamaica Now, mouthy Warmington JLP MP facing heat for comments about the opposition leader's skin colour and his chances of reaching Jamaica House. Tufton's health ministry flagged for breaches in the award of over $400 million worth of COVID-19 contracts. Entertainer Spice has broken her silence on the state of her health. And the case of murdered influencer Slickianna, a man she travelled across the country to meet on the night of her death, has been charged. I'm Jovan Johnson, and this is Jamaica Now. Pressure is building for JLP MP Everald Warmington to apologise and retract a statement suggesting that opposition leader Mark Golding's skin colour makes him unfit to become Prime Minister of Jamaica. Mr. Golding is a white man who was born in Jamaica. The Office of the Political Ombudsman is probing the issue. The comments made at a party meeting on November 6 have been condemned by the Private Sector Organisation of Jamaica (PSOJ) and Golding's People's National Party (PNP). The PSOJ said Mr. Warmington's comments are divisive and totally inconsistent with Jamaica's motto, "Out of many, one people." It claimed that the MP's utterances directly contradict the Political Code of Conduct, which says party officials should not make statements which are malicious in reference to opposing candidates, their families and party officials. Now, PNP Chairman Dr. Angela Brown-Burke said Mr. Warmington's remarks are repulsive, racially charged, despicable and in poor taste. On Thursday, the JLP General Secretary Dr. Horace Chang described the comments of his colleague Cabinet Minister as unfortunate. Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton has engaged in damage control regarding an audit finding of breaches in the expenditure of $400 million for Jamaica's COVID-19 response. The Auditor General's Department's investigation revealed the absence of formal contracts totaling more than $400 million with 14 of 15 hotels and suppliers for infrastructural works. Dr. Tufton has argued, however, that the pandemic presented grave difficulties for the Health Ministry in its management of the disease.
My interpretation of the report is that the Auditor General has not claimed any inappropriate or misappropriation, I should say, of funds. And that's very important to note because, there is always a room for speculation and so on. What the Auditor General spoke to, as I understand it in the report, is the issue of whether or not a process was followed where contracts in the tangible way, how contracts are written, were written. Let's wait on the PAC. Let's allow the team to respond. I've had a meeting with the team. I've read the report and also heard and seen the responses. COVID was a difficult period, very, very difficult period. There are many decisions that were taken on the spur of the moment because lives were on the line.
The audit was conducted between May 2020 and June this year, following the allocation of $8 billion to the Ministry of Health and $1.1 billion to the Labour and Social Security Ministry. The Board of the Housing Agency of Jamaica, HAJ, may engage other state authorities to probe findings of an internal audit that led to the sacking of Managing Director Dr. Patrick Thelwell. Information Minister Robert Morgan says Mr. Thelwell's firing was not an indication that he was involved in any illicit activity, but as Managing Director held ultimate responsibility for the affairs of the agency. The authorities have released very little details of the audit findings. The audit, however, uncovered a policy breach that Board Chairman Norman Brown revealed amounted to more than $90 million in variations on a project. Mr. Brown said the breach led to the payout of significant sums without the approval of the board. He said if the board had failed to fire Mr. Thelwell, he would have had to resign as chairman. Meanwhile, Mr. Thelwell has said he's being used as a scapegoat as he brought the matter to the board when he discovered the issue in July. He said he relied on his technical team's advice in granting approvals in relation to the project. Mr. Thelwell said the statement from the Office of the Prime Minister announcing that his contract was terminated following the audit sent a wrong signal that could damage his reputation. The government is proposing to pay $16 million in compensation to fisher folk affected by the fish kill in the Rio Cobra in St. Catherine in July. The compensation is being funded from the $117 million environmental performance bond paid by bauxite company Windalco, whose effluent flowed into the river. Minister with responsibility for the environment, Senator Matthew Samuda, stated that the National Environment and Planning Agency had recommended $57.2 million in compensation. Mr. Samuda said the sum was calculated using the average daily catch of each species of fish and the number of fishermen estimated to be in the area and affected by the pollution incident, which lasted 10 days. The payment to fisherfolk is part of a wider compensation package totaling $115.7 million. Now, opposition spokesperson on land, environment and climate change, Senator Sophia Fraser-Binns, says the amount for the fish farmers is too low. She said the fisherfolk are the ones who need the greatest assistance but suffer the largest percentage reduction between the sum recommended and the sum allocated. The St. James Police on Friday charged 33-year-old Rushawn Chizzy Patterson with the murder of 35-year-old social media influencer Anika Townsend, otherwise called Kayan or Slickianna. Ms. Townsend's body was found in the sea in Reading, St. James on October 21. Head of the St. James Police, Senior Superintendent Vernon Ellis, says the night before she was killed, Slikiana travelled to Montego Bay from Kingston and was picked up by Mr. Patterson.
During the course of the evening, they visited a restaurant in Hanover and a guest house in St. James. At some point in the night, an argument developed between them, which resulted in Ms. Townsend being strangled by Patterson and her body disposed. Additionally, a 47-year-old security guard, Mr. Ron Rose, otherwise called Early B, has been charged with misprision of felony in relation to this same matter. Investigations are ongoing as it is suspected that Mr. Patterson may have been involved in other incidents similar to those for which he has been charged.
Mr. Patterson, whose first name the police previously reported as Rushawn, was also recently charged for assault over a 2018 incident in which he allegedly attacked a woman in a jealous rage. Dance hall entertainer Spice says she's recovering from a ruptured hernia that sent her body into sepsis, a life-threatening reaction to an infection. In an Instagram post on November 9, the Grammy-nominated artiste denied reports that she had a heart attack and had been in a coma. She said she underwent surgery. For almost 2 weeks, calls grew for an update on Spice's welfare after reports emerged of a health scare. Spice has asked for prayers and apologized to event organizers for not fulfilling her bookings. 2 Jamaica Defence Force JDF soldiers were killed and 2 others injured following a motor vehicle crash along Old Hope Road in St. Andrew on Friday morning. The deceased soldiers have only been identified as Ricardo Harrison and Mario Powell. The police say Mr. Harrison was driving a blue Toyota Yaris motorcar with 3 passengers aboard when he failed to negotiate a corner near the Waterfalls building in Ligani, causing the vehicle to veer into a wall at the side of the roadway. And that's it for this edition of Jamaica Now, your weekly review of the big news stories. Send us your comments at onlinefeedback@gleanerjm.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Jamaica Gleaner and on Facebook at Gleaner Jamaica. Like this video on our YouTube page, turn on the notification, and subscribe today. I'm Jovan Johnson, and before we go, why is Jamaica being urged to export professionals such as practical nurses to North America and the United Kingdom?
The demand in Canada is high. The government has now, they call it the care economy. Yes. The care economy. And they have a minister that is in charge of senior care. It is so important. The UK has a vacancy rate of over, it was about 40,000, it's down to 25,000. They have pumped in, I think it was somewhere about $40 million over the next 5 years to import personnel to look after people. The US, you have alone in Florida, the vacancy rate is about 5,000 or 6,000.
In Florida?
In Florida. What I'm saying is, we should be like the Philippines. I have been preaching this for the last 5 years. The Philippines is very clear. They're training people for export. They train nurses for export. They don't care. They have the schools, the government has the systems, and they are pumping out those people. And the returns to the Philippines is phenomenal. Millions, billions of dollars going back. I am just saying, I want Jamaica to be another Philippines.